I have to ask you some questions about Pete Hegseth now, because it certainly appears to me that Trump is getting more pressure. Many in his administration are getting more pressure to let this guy go, but it appears as though he is still going to stick around, at least for the time being. What do you make of this stuff? What do you make of the fact that he's still there, even after more signal chat issues, and bringing his wife involved and a former Fox producer into some of these classified Pentagon meetings? What do you make of this?
Well, I think there's a couple of things going. I think there's 3 reasons why he won't get fired. And I get really aggravated when Democrats say he needs to resign, he needs to get fired. It's like, it's so dumb to me, because like, none of these people ever resign. What are you talking about? Stop. Democrats need to stop calling for Republicans to resign. When's the last Republican to resign from a scandal? Like, it just doesn't happen.
True.
George Santos had to be dragged out kicking and screaming after he was expelled, and the guy was under like 24 felony indictments, so they don't resign. And so what's happening? What would be the way that he would get fired? There's only one way to get fired in this new Trump administration, and that is disloyal to Trump. If you're disloyal to Trump, if you say something bad about him or make him look bad in some way, him specifically, not yourself, that's the only way you can get fired. You can do anything. You can be completely incompetent. You can commit crimes. You can just be terrible in your job. None of that matters. As long as you're loyal to Trump, you're not going to get fired unless I think unless there was like a dozen Republican senators that stood up and said, I can't support this man anymore. Then I think Trump would consider it. But as we know, how many Republican senators have come out and called for him to step down? 0, not one.
Yeah, and what do you make of the fact that he goes on Fox and Friends? You want to talk about a puffer interview? What a hard-hitting interview that was. So he goes on Fox and Friends, and Caroline Leavitt today says Donald Trump still has 100% backing of this guy. And then meanwhile, you have all these apologists coming forward and saying, well, we're all standing by Pete Hegseth. This is the media. Pete Hegseth blaming the media, blaming George Soros, blaming the deep state. They're blaming the deep state for all of this stuff coming out, when it was actually, as you know, Ron, several of his own employees who he appointed that are now speaking out against him. And he says, well, they're just disgruntled ex-employees.
Yeah, he's creating disgruntled ex-employees out of his friends. I mean, the 4 people who have been let go, one was demoted, were all longtime friends and employees of him. They worked for him in the past. He's known them for at least 10 years. These are all MAGA Trump supporting people. They still are. I watched one of them who just got fired give an interview to Tucker Carlson last night. I watched the whole thing. It was over an hour. It made my head hurt because it had a false headline on it. It had a false headline that said that that he was fired because he opposed a U.S. war on a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, and that's the real reason why he was fired. But so I was listening for this guy to try to blame it on that because but the whole premise was that was Tucker Carlson's conspiracy theory. The guy never agreed to his theory. So I ended up listening to this interview for like an hour and 8 minutes just to hear Tucker Carlson's theory. But these people are not deep staters. What they are is they're people who got in there and saw the freaking horror show that was happening. They saw Elon Musk getting ready to get a classified briefing about Chinese war plans, and they didn't want that to happen because it was nuts. It was crazy.
Right.
And so, yes, they leaked to the media. They didn't leak classified information, because Hegseth this morning said that for the first time on Fox, that they're being referred to DOJ for leaking potentially classified information, which is rich, because he claims on his signal chats, none of that stuff was classified, even though it was like bombing of Yemen. And yet these guys who are leaking stuff to the media, he's claiming were leaking classified information. And now he's talking about not just firing his friends, but having them criminally prosecuted, all to cover his own ass. That's who Pete Hegseth is.
And as you said on social media, which I laughed at, but it's also true, is that Pete Hegseth mom, she warned us, right? She warned us what kind of guy he was. But because all of those in MAGA world seem to defend anything and anybody. I mean, you remember even Matt Gaetz, so many MAGA Republicans that were saying, well, we got to stand by our guy. It really is sick. Where do you see this thing going, Ron? If there's more revelations that come out, whether it be by the New York Times or another entity that give multiple more examples of Pete Hegseth doing the types of things that he has already done, do you see any of this changing?
Yeah. I thought the most accurate quote I heard from a inside source in the Trump White House was Trump saying, I'm not going to give them a scalp. I'm not going to give the media a win. And I think that he did absolutely I believe he said that, because that exactly reflects his attitude on all this stuff.
Yeah.
Is that if he perceives this as, if I fire this guy, the Democrats win or the media wins, if that's his view of it, instead of viewing it as like what's best for the country and what's best for the Department of Defense, he's viewing it as, am I going to look bad if I fire him, and is Democrats going to get a win? Yes, therefore I'm not going to do it. So that's just the prism and the way he views everything, not what's best for the country, but what's best for me. And so I think it would take something really seismic to drop, like maybe they, hit them bringing out that he was drinking on the job or something like that. But no, I'm afraid that's not likely. I'm afraid, there might be more stuff that comes out, but it's not going to matter. This guy's going to continue to wreck DOD.
This might not be the most important question to ask you, and it's pure speculation. Do you think Pete Hegseth was drunk on Easter Sunday when he did some interviews? He sounded like, and again, it's speculation, he was on something. Do you think he's been drinking, number one, and do you think he was drunk on Easter Sunday?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he always sounds very erratic and nuts. He uses the same phrases over and over again: warfighter, and lethality, warfighter. He used in his 8-minute or whatever interview that he gave to Kill Me this morning, he used warfighter 6 times. He's an empty suit, really. I mean, he runs around, he does push-ups on the bases with guys, and he films himself doing that. He does a whole slew of Fox interviews. He's never given an interview to anybody other than Fox, which was where he worked. So he'll only interview with his former employer. He will not give an interview to any other media outlet, not CBS, ABC, CNN, nobody. Only Fox is safe space, where he knows his friends are going to ask him nice, soft, easy questions. And I listened to the interview. Kilmeade asked maybe 4 questions, and, just let Hegseth filibuster and run on and repeat himself over and over and over again. And he didn't answer specifically one question that Kilmeade asked him. So even the softball questions he doesn't answer. So if this guy ever sat down for a serious interview where he was pinned down, I mean, he would look even worse than he does now.
Yeah.